Hi, I'm Spencer Montgomery, and this is not financial advice. On today's show, we're going to talk about why I am more bullish than I have been in over 2 years. Since 2021, there hasn't been a time where I'm more excited about what's going on in the stock market and the crypto markets, including Bitcoin and Ethereum. So let's dive right in and show you what has materialized just in the last 10 days that has really changed a lot of what I'm expecting coming forward. All right, so looking at this chart, I've got two charts pulled up, one on top of the other. So I've got the S&P on the top, and I've got the Fed funds rate, or the interest rates that the Fed raises, on the bottom. And I have these vertical lines that go from the bottom chart to the top chart. And these lines show where the market tops out, where the peak happened in 2000, in 2007, in 2020, and where I think it's going to top out later on, maybe next year. What you'll notice is that the market tops, when you look at the Fed funds rate, the interest rates, the market tops after the Fed pauses raising rates. It means they've kind of raised it as high as they're going to go, and now they're just leaving them there for a set amount of time. In 2000, there was a pause for about 3 months. In 2007, there was a pause for almost a year. And in 2019 is when the Fed paused, and we didn't get the top of the market until 2020. So what was really big last week is the Fed paused raising rates. And so if the trend continues as what's happened 3 times before, we should see that the market reaches all-time highs within the next 4 to 6 months. And so that's why I'm targeting potentially somewhere between February to May as the next high. But until then, we've got some really impressive movements that could happen. All right, so let's zoom in and let's go straight to the charts that we normally go to. Remember, we talk about the S&P, the Nasdaq, the US dollar index, and interest rates. So we're going to get rid of these two charts. Let's just go to one. And we're going to zoom in on the S&P. And let's go to the weekly chart, which means each candlestick is 1 week. We'll zoom in here. And the thing that is interesting is we take a trend line that's been the downtrend since the high in July, and this week we have broken above that downward trend line. So that should kind of be where we're kind of off to the races, as I mentioned, to higher highs by February or March of next year. So we're continuing to put in higher highs, higher lows. I'll put in another trend line here. So we just want to stay above this trend line on the S&P and see things to continue moving up. So the stock market in general is looking really healthy. Now moving to the Nasdaq, same thing happened where the Nasdaq's been trending down since July, and we broke above that trend this week, and the candlestick is looking really strong. And so if we were to project kind of where the Nasdaq could end up, we could be targeting somewhere between 18,000 to 20,000 come March or April. We are looking at potentially a 25 to 35% return just in the Nasdaq, and that's in 6 months. That's a really wild price action. Now, why am I confident, or why should we expect such a big move so fast? Like, that is just pretty much unprecedented. Well, if we look at, there's just everything is lining up. If we go to the US dollar index, last week, the US dollar index broke down below the support line. And now we're targeting the index, which is at 105 right now, to get to 90 to 85. That's a 10 to 15% decline in the US dollar index, which would be a big boost to the other markets. And then if we look at the interest rates, like the 10-year and the 2-year, they're all breaking down, which is, again, going to be critical for the markets moving up. So I've showed you the US, the 10-year, the 2-year, and the 30-year. So now let's go into the crypto world. Let's look at Bitcoin. Let's look at Ethereum. We're going to look at the entire crypto market cap. So to start, we're going to look at Bitcoin. And the Bitcoin really made its big move 3 weeks ago, but it's continued to move in a really healthy way, primarily because we're getting closer and closer to the Bitcoin ETF approval. Today, the window for the ETF to get approved opened, and there's a 90% chance it gets approved by January 10th. And so people that are buying are basically front running that approval. And that doesn't mean that money's going to flood in right then. And so, I mean, there's a ton of money. It's after the ETF gets approved that all of the money is going to start funneling in. But this move right now is people front running that getting approved. So one thing that is critical is the level of support, or I should say the level of resistance that got broken through this week. So you'll notice in 2021, in January and May of 2021, and then in February through March of 2022, the price was right around 35 to 36. So let's put it at 36, and you'll see that the price is right below that. It broke above, it came back down. And so it's acting as a really critical line of resistance right now. And when that breaks, we could see the market move really quick to 42 to even 46K. And that's kind of what I'm targeting by the end of the year. So we have 8 weeks left in the year, and I think we could make another 20-25% move in Bitcoin alone. Ethereum today is the big day for Ethereum. It finally broke above 2,000. Ethereum has been below 2,000 ever since basically May of 2022. We're talking about a year and a half where the price is below 2,000. And so being able to break above that now, I'm thinking that we're going to see another 20-30% move within the next 4 to 6 weeks. And one thing that's really interesting is looking at the Bitcoin to Ethereum chart. So what that means is this chart shows like how is Ethereum behaving with regards to Bitcoin. This chart that I'm showing you, it's been on a steady decline, meaning Bitcoin has outperformed Ethereum ever since September of 2022. So for an entire year, Bitcoin has outperformed Ethereum. And what I'm saying is that just in the last 2 weeks, we've basically bottomed and Ethereum is going to start outperforming Bitcoin. And so I think Bitcoin is going to go really strong, but this is telling me that Ethereum is going to go even stronger. And when Ethereum goes, all of the other altcoins go as well. So we are really moving into, I wouldn't say crypto summer, but this is like crypto spring where things are really starting to pop off and gain some momentum that I think, again, lasts for 4 to 6 months, which takes us to February or April. And to be honest, my targets for Bitcoin is about 80K for March and somewhere between 6 and 8K for Ethereum. Now, let me go back to a couple other crypto charts that we haven't looked at before. Now, the first one is the total. You take the entire market cap of crypto, and we surpassed a big level of resistance 3 weeks ago, and we're continuing to move through that in a very healthy way. So that's another sign that the momentum is on our side. When you take a look at this next chart, this is the market cap of crypto minus Bitcoin. So a lot of times Bitcoin's its own thing. And so we need to take it away and look at what are all the other coins going to do. And just this week, that chart broke resistance. And so this is basically telling us that all the other altcoins are on their way to start moving up as well. Bitcoin is always the leader. We want Bitcoin to lead. As soon as Bitcoin stops leading, then we need to be nervous. But Bitcoin has led this move for the last month, and now it's time for the altcoins to catch up. Lastly, another big reason why I think we can be optimistic about the markets is because of what's happening with inflation. The reason the Fed had to raise rates so aggressively was because they were fighting inflation. They're trying to get that down. And basically what we're seeing is in the commodities like oil, like corn and copper, those prices are starting to decrease significantly which is a big component of inflation. So this chart right here is a chart of oil. And for the last 3 weeks, we've seen it decrease from 90 down to 76. That's nearly a 15% move in 3 weeks. And then now it's below the 200-day moving average. So this is kind of like the pinnacle example that inflation is now under control, which means the Fed doesn't have to raise rates anymore, and we can feel really comfortable. We never want to feel really comfortable, but we can feel comfortable that we have room for the next 2 to 3 months, maybe 6 months, for the markets to really take off. I will say, give you a word of caution. When everybody is not bullish right now. Everybody's still predicting a recession. So everybody's very cautious. They have money on the sidelines. They're not fully deployed into their positions. And as the markets start to move up and things get closer to their all-time highs, you're going to see people piling in their cash that they had back into these positions. And everybody's going to get really bullish just in time for the effects of the recession, for the effects of the interest rate rises to actually then affect everything else. So I'm saying I'm very bullish for, again, another 4 to 6 months, but I'm not saying that we have just open skies for the next couple of years. There's going to be some fireworks. There's going to be some bumps in the road. It's going to be really fun and interesting to watch. The main thing to do is get your position in Bitcoin and Ethereum. All right, so that's all we have to share for today. We covered a tremendous amount. We looked at charts like Ethereum and Bitcoin. We looked at the US dollar index, interest rates, S&P, etc. Thanks for joining us today on Not Financial Advice. I'll see you next time.